Welcome back to my two-part series, Flying Free, which in this part we'll be talking about Mariah Carey's album, Butterfly. In part 1, we discussed the rocky development of Daydream, but also why it earned the success it did. If you'd like to dive deeper into that, be sure to check out the video. But as a brief summation, Mariah was at the hands of a label who didn't believe in her artistic vision and a very controlling husband. After being given label leniency, Mariah pushed forward into hip-hop and R&B, which rubbed Columbia Records and her husband the wrong way, as it was too differentiated from what she had put out. Though after the success of Daydream nationally and across the globe, it's clear Mariah knew what she was doing. We ended the video on Mariah's divorce from Tommy Mottola, which brings us into this video. After divorcing her ex-husband, the roller coaster didn't stop for Mariah. She was now at the mercy of critics who had a lot to say about her image, sound, and her public relationships. Let's pick up right where we left off in part 1, where Mariah leaves Tommy, and then get into the development of Butterfly. As mentioned in my last video, Mariah herself at one point has considered Butterfly her magnum opus, meaning her best body of work. She stated this in 2009 in the booklet for her album, Memoirs of an Imperfect Angel. So let's explore why she and others may think that. As we continue, let me know what your favorite track off Mariah Carey's Butterfly is, and if you prefer it over Daydream, or vice versa. Let's get into it now on Pop Dissected. Now, in between the time Mariah and Tommy were getting separated and divorced, she had a brief fling with professional baseball player Derek Jeter. And she states that this brief fling helped her get the strength to leave Tommy. Mariah stated she felt that Derek Jeter entered her life to show her what love truly could be. And that's not to say these two were actually in love and had these long-term plans. Additionally, both of them being biracial helped Mariah work through her own identity issues when it came to race. We brought this up in part 1 where Mariah felt that Tommy was trying to whitewash her. Side relationships were highly scrutinized by the media, many claiming her divorce only happened because Mariah was having flings left and right. Media was critical of her choice in producers, which led to a longtime collaborator she's had on every record, leaving the development of Butterfly. Even though Mariah was able to expand upon what she introduced more prominently with Daydream, Butterfly was not without its issues when it came to its production process. Critics would see Mariah's new team and collaboration with hip-hop artists as, quote, revenge against a more conservative inclined Sony. But Mariah merely saw this album as a way to have the most control and input she's ever had. Sony, of course, being the big name, had concerns Mariah could jeopardize her career. I find these consistent worries a bit odd. Daydream should have proved something to Sony that Mariah knew what she was doing. So this apparent worry seems to be more about damage control and keeping Mariah in this windowless box, especially when you think about everything else that's going on. I also find their worries to be a bit self-involved, as their worries are not really about Mariah, it's about their company. Now, despite all of this, Mariah would collaborate with a handful of rappers to provide verses on some of the tracks, a staple that would later hit nearly every pop artist following this. Now, to detour a bit on the production side, the theme itself of Butterflies wasn't something Mariah Carey had initially set out to utilize. While imagining the titular track, Mariah noticed an art piece that featured a butterfly on it, one of the only things Mariah would take from her previous home with Tommy before it burned down. It turned out to be an odd, poetic justice and a lightning rod of inspiration. The butterfly motif is nothing new, and for the most part, a lot of us get the concept. But this symbolic butterfly really contributed to real-world development that worked so well for Mariah, as she was now exploring new parts of her identity in nearly every facet. One way Mariah did this was exploring her own sensuality and newfound single status. Many were pretty quick to note more revealing attire. Some lyrics across Butterfly also have a very blatant connotation to intimacy. Mariah stated how, while that was part of who she was and she embraced this change as her own decision, she never would have allowed anyone else to direct her this way, which I think is pretty awesome. Going off of this, Mariah wanted to showcase herself as a multi-dimensional person. This era encapsulates that not only just within the music, but with how Mariah presents herself. Mariah just seemed to evolve into her own unique person, not only from how she presented herself, but her interactions with fans, and growing into that more blunt and at times shady attitude we see in interviews that we love. And I think all of this connects to this overarching idea between these two albums that Mariah Carey wanted to show more realness, more authenticity, which that approach can be either a hit or a gigantic miss, and for Mariah, it was a hit. Some also recognize Mariah approached new vocal techniques, such as a very rapid delivery and bringing prominence to her signature airy whisper, which critics felt helped charm the listeners, as opposed to providing vocals that were strictly empowering or overpowering, depending how you want to look at it. Mariah was prepared for any critical response that may have not been favorable, such as one stating that the album presented a pop Mariah and a hip-hop Mariah that didn't necessarily mesh well. Some felt also that Mariah was jumping on the hip-hop R&B bandwagon, since plenty of people were still seeing her as a pop artist. In response to this, Mariah stated she has plenty of never-released material that fits the hip-hop bill. I also found out she has this secret alternative type album she recorded during Daydream, so if you'd like a video on that, let me know. Mariah was working with collaborators who were in awe of her. It was a mutual transaction for both parties that helped build an outstanding resume with these efforts led by reputable artists. It offered a launching pad for everyone involved. This hip-hop and pop hybrid would eventually become a very commonplace practice within the music industry, so this could be another genre blend we can happily credit Mariah Carey for. Now, we know she established this trend with Daydream, but she really cemented it with Butterfly. This in turn allowed Mariah to create longevity for herself and deliver a sonically cohesive record that ebbs and flows from track to track. While some see Butterfly as not showcasing Mariah's strongest or most capable vocals, some find it to hold some of her most exceptional songwriting, with tracks such as Outside, Close My Eyes, and Break Down. Butterfly would debut at number 1 on the Billboard 200 with 236,000 copies sold. The album would remain in the top 20 for 21 weeks and earn a cumulative 55 weeks on the Billboard 200 albums chart. We'd see it hit number 1 on the UK R&B albums chart and number 1 in Australia, Canada, and Japan, then placed predominantly within the top 10 all over the world. While this record overall would be a sales dripper comparative to Daydream, Butterfly still held merit and went on to sell 10 million copies worldwide. The album would spawn 2 number 1 singles, Honey and My All, with these 2 tracks as well as Breakdown taking the 2nd and 4th positions on the US R&B hip-hop songs chart, respectively. Butterfly has been seen by critics as one of the blueprints for seamlessly merging hip-hop, R&B, and pop within one body of work. Others note the collaboration seen across the album helped push it to being a standard R&B classic and setting the stage for other pop artists to include rappers on their tracks. Mariah's break into independence and more maturing image is also seen as something that has become commonplace for female artists. Mariah would earn 3 Grammy nominations for this album, be awarded Best-Selling Female R&B Artist by the World Music Awards and American Music Awards. She'd also take home a Japan Gold Disc Award for Favorite International Album. The sheer amount of sales and award recognition wasn't stalling before, and wouldn't afterwards. Through it all, Mariah's personal and career evolution over the course of Daydream and Butterfly is quite interesting. We see how it's always been the case of labels that are domineering, and sometimes partners as well. When you're in a relationship with someone who views you as a product, this only worsens things. Mariah Carey, through all those inarguably devastating challenges and times, was able to persevere. She left her abuser, took her career by the reins, and showcased to the world she wasn't some doll who just gets on stage to be pretty. She had stories to tell, experiences to share, not only through her music, but about herself as well. Outside of her fan base, some tend to see Mariah as strictly a pop diva or a personality. However, we can clearly see she's not just a one-bit pop star. She experimented and brought a new way of approaching artistry through mixing of genres, thoughtful collaborations, and a developing image that really hit home with the authenticity angle. Additionally, demanding creative control and breaking free from a toxic relationship is just as inspiring as her artistic contributions. Now, we can't be broad and say Mariah should be the sole person credited to these progressions throughout the music industry. But we also can't be small-minded and pretend she didn't have a hand in affecting the way the industry works now. And that is very impressive. With an ever-extending legacy, let me know if you prefer Mariah Carey's Daydream or Butterfly. These two seem to be in competition for Mariah's magnum opus or best album. So which one do you think should hold that title? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed today's video, it would be greatly appreciated if you gave it a like and subscribe so you can stay connected to content on all your favorite pop stars. Also, it helps out the channel. Thank y'all so much, and I'll see y'all next time.